Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. You are listening to and watching the Review Crew. And I'm your host, Brian, the conscience of Cleveland Orland. Well, folks, it is week 4, a whole month of football down, and I think everybody's just loving life. Well, to be fair, in our group chat, nobody was loving life on Sunday, but that's just our choices and team, sadly. So we are ready to talk ball about the ups, the downs, and all the rest of it that's happened in week 4. And as always, we will be getting stuck in with our kickoff question and our statistic of the week. Now, remember, folks, give us a like, a subscribe, a follow. You can catch us on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you stay in touch with the crew, be part of the crew community. I don't know if Keith's still trying to coin that as a phrase or if he gave up in crew community. Get in touch with us, join in the chat, ladies and gents. Now, as always, I am joined by some of the finest members of the crew. Smudger, well, he's 2 for 2 on review crew appearances in recent weeks. But the biggest news of the minute, Smudger's actually getting to enjoy Victory Monday, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time this year, he's scrolled his way through the weekend and he is with us here tonight. Smudger, how are you doing, Chief?
I'm doing great. I am savouring a Victory Monday, mate. It's a feeling that I didn't think it would take till week 4 till I finally experienced a Victory Monday, but there you go. This is where we are now. This is the NFL in 2023. But yes, enjoying my Victory Monday, making the most of it. Fantasy team won as well. All is well in the world. In American football Monday terms.
Yeah. Well, it's all right, but we'll spare you talking about the round football. We'll spare you. That's not what the pod's for. But yeah, now to be fair, we go for one man that's enjoying a rare Victory Monday to another man who surely at this stage is just bored of them. They're so routine, they're so mundane and passe that he can't be bothered with Victory Monday anymore. It is the big bird himself. Kev, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Brian. Cheers. And you're right. I suppose I'm
right, yes, I am. I'm bored of Victory now. I wish for a challenge.
Not quite bored. I would say I'm a bit spoilt. So some Victory Mondays seem more important than others, or more fun than others. Now, this Victory Monday isn't a great one because it was tough sledding at times in the game. So yeah, you don't enjoy it quite the same way when it's a tough game like that. But like I said, definitely spoiled.
That's an interesting. I don't know. I agree with you. Would you prefer to win out in a game where it's just a leathering? Like the Finns Broncos the other week, 70-20. Never in doubt, it's an absolute hiding for the get-go, or a really tight, hotly contested game that right at the death, overtime, right at the last button you get the win. I think I'd go with the second one, providing you win, of course. It's heartbreaking to be on the other side of that one.
That's true.
Where do you land? What would you prefer?
Well, I've seen a lot of those types of games in recent years where it's been an absolute right down to the wire, and you've just snuck a win. And they put you through the ringer. I do like the blowout games. I've got to say, where you can just sit back, enjoy it, sitting eating your chicken wings and having a few beers and just watching your team absolutely pick some of the pieces. Only because I say my nails have been bitten so much in recent seasons watching my Vikings. So I'll go for the other side of the coin in that one.
Yeah, there you go. And psychology in that. What does a sports fan like?
I think if we'd been playing against, I don't know, Kansas or the 49ers or somebody like that, then absolutely. But when it's a game that you're expecting to win and win comfortably, then I don't know. There's a wee bit of a tinge of disappointment, even though we got the win, and that's why I don't quite enjoy it as much.
So, Kev, are you trying to tell me that you do not hold Sam Howell in the same esteem that you hold Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just shocked, disappointed. On behalf of all the Sam Howell fans out there, don't you worry, folks. I won't let him away with this insult to Sam Howell's good name. Right, okay. Do you know what? I'm going to be honest. We're kind of doing double dipping in the kickoff questions. That was inadvertent, but it's a wee bit like 2 for the price of 1 this week, folks. So we're going to get into our kickoff question, and this week we are going on the theme of down to earth with a bang. So last week, as we've mentioned, the Spins put 70 up on the Broncos. It was a 50-point win. Blowout doesn't cover a victory like that. But Josh Allen and the Bills rocked up and absolutely leathered them this week on Sunday Night Football. So they were very much brought down to earth with a bang. So that is our question to kick us off tonight. What is your back to earth with a bang moment in sport that you can remember that just sticks out for you? Now, me and Kev are actually talking about this before Smudger joined us on the pod. So I'm going to go to Kev last because I know what he's gone with us.
Okay.
What about yourself? Kick us off. What is your down to earth with a bump moment?
Okay. I thought a wee bit about this one. This was one we're going to go back to 2000 and qualifiers for the European Championships 2004. Cast your mind back, boys. Scotland playing the Netherlands, and we played them at Hampden.
This is good.
Right, you know where this is going. You know, you did say back to the earth with a bump. I was at that game. I was at Hampden, and we beat them 1-0. I think was it James McFadden scored. Pretty sure it was. I beat them 1-0 and thought, this is amazing. Like we've actually got a chance. We're going to qualify for the Euros, boys. It's going to be Tartan Army. Here we go to the European Championships, and all that week the optimism and yes, we're amazing. Finally going to do it. And I remember like the day of the game, like picking up a newspaper, and there was a football on the front of it, and they'd asked like Yuri Geller to like get the whole of the Scottish nation to touch this football, right? And positive energy is going to flow through the Scottish team. And we're gonna go out there and get the result that we need. And then we went out and get absolutely pumped 6-0. And I remember the day after watching, like totally dejected. The day after, the front page of the newspaper was a burst football, just saying, "Was burst." Game's a bogey, lads.
That's it. Back to obscurity we go.
Yep.
There's not a single unbent teaspoon in the gaff though. Yuri Geller got his magic. Oh, that. Well, you know what? Thank you very much, Smudger, because that's just depressing me. Reliving that terrible moment.
Dark times.
The dark days. Right, Kev, I'll come to you, mate. What is your sporting down to earth with a bump?
Well, I think sport's very good at being able to bring people back down to earth, and it's littered, absolutely littered with examples like that, like Smudger just gave. I mean, a wee shout out to the Atlanta Falcons. They'll know all about getting brought back down to earth with a bang. But for me, I was taken to and a wee American link here, although it's not American football. I was thinking about Freddie Adu, and how this boy had the world at his feet at one stage. He was the next best thing in soccer. He was going to be the best player in the world. Playing in MLS at 12 or something like that, and then just disappeared into absolute obscurity. So for me, that's what I kind of think about when you talk about like kind of sport bringing people back down to earth with a bump.
100%. Now I've got my personal story I get to chuck in here. It's a Scottish, maybe quite a relatively niche Scottish football one. But if Kev certainly remembers him, Smudger, I don't know if you do. It was a Celtic youth player that was Islam Farouz, who was brought over to Scotland from, I want to say Somalia, but I think that's wrong. Certainly brought over from somewhere in Africa. And he was going to be the next best thing. And I taught him. Very briefly taught him. there was absolutely no way he was as young as he was saying he was, because he was like 14 and 6'5". But he was massive. But he played with Celtic, was maybe the next big thing, went to Chelsea and vanished into nothingness, never to be seen or heard of again.
He got that big
You're right.
Yeah. My actual one, though, is I'm just going to flippantly say this so that Smudger can laugh and then I'm going to move on, is my sporting down with a bump is just Celtic after any major European success. Doesn't seem to matter what European result we get. You win a great game in Europe, then next weekend, this Saturday, you're at home to St Johnstone and you're getting cuffed 3-0.
Ross County or something.
Ross County away are then unplayable. Fantastic. Anyway, okay, guys. As always, that is us limbered up, as they say. So it is time to get stuck into the games of the week. And as I say, we're a month in, which it's great how far away the off-season even feels now. You can't even smell the stink of the off-season. So one of the odd things, and this is not a problem for us, the preview boys can worry about this. There's bye weeks next week. Teams on a bye week 5. Which, to be fair, I spent a whole amount of the off-season complaining about the Browns having a bye week 5, and I'm actually now bloody delighted that we're week 5 because we need it. So we're going to get stuck into our moments of the week, some of our big games. I'm actually going to kick us off this week, thinking about the joys of Thursday night football when we had Detroit in Green Bay. Well, allegedly Detroit in Green Bay. I don't know if any's caught much of Thursday night football. There was an alarming amount of blue in Lambeau. Like, honestly, for a city that a town that loves its football as much as the people in Green Bay do, they weren't that fussed in watching the Lions come to town. So it was a big. I was going to say a shock win for the Lions. I don't actually know if that's fair anymore. Historically, absolutely, it would have been a shock win. These days, though, this year, Jordan Love at the helm in Green Bay, he is not looking like, anyway, a Hall of Fame quarterback that the Packers are so accustomed to having at the helm. And the Lions look legit. The Lions are actually, this isn't some form of fever dream. Actually look like a good team. So, yeah, do you know what I mean? Big moments of the game, the stats are actually really, really interesting for me. The complete lack of any ground game from the Packers at all.
Zero. There was nothing.
And you look, okay, was it last week, the week before, Aaron Jones sat out, he was hurt. Right, okay.
He was injured.
You missed Aaron Jones, right? Fine. We'll have the gimme. He was fine. He was fit. They only gave him 5 carries.
Yeah.
5 carries, 18 yards.
But as an Aaron Jones fantasy owner this week, I can vouch for how little he did on the ground for Green Bay, how little Green Bay as a whole, how little they did on the ground. On the flip side of that, I can also vouch for how much David Montgomery did. 32.
Taking the words clear out of my mouth. 32 carries. Right. See, and this again, this is one of the ones that's great when you have people that only follow the game for fantasy purposes and stuff like that. Is what I always find very funny, because you've got people are crying out for Jahmyr Gibbs. There's fantasy owners up and down the land who drafted this man aggressively, watching him get 8 of 43 carries. Now, to be fair, he did convert them for 40 yards, which, 40 yards on 8 carries is no mean feat. It's, 5 yards per carry, more than respectable. However, 32 carries for 121 yards in 3 touchdowns. Although, now, not to take anything away from Monty, because that's a sensational performance. Some of his touchdowns I could have scored. The Green Bay defensive line was being bullied all over that pitch by that Lions offensive line. The holes that they were opening, honestly, you could drive a bus through them. Never mind somebody like Monty. I think it was the third one. I think it's the third one was the only one that he had to work for. The other 2 touchdowns, he basically just went, fine. thank God. And just wandered his way into the end zone at a
Sauntered casually
light
through.
jog. It was baffling to watch. Jared
So
Goff had a
one-sided first
reasonable game. 210 yards, fine.
Oh,
But,
he didn't start the
then-
best though. He threw
No, he
an
didn't.
interception at the very beginning of the game, and
it was a bad pick.
Aye, it was, and the Packers took a 3-0 lead, and then that was basically the only thing they did in the first half.
Yeah.
After that, it was just all Detroit, and it was the game was essentially over by half time. They're up 27-3 at half time. Like you said,
put
they
up
just
7 points.
totally dominated them.
Yeah. Second half, Detroit only managed 7 points, which the fact that they could take their foot off it so much.
Damage was already done.
Yeah. So you know what? This is my question, I suppose, for this. Like, are we on the Detroit train? Is it leaving the station? Do we buy into the hype? Are they playoff bound? I'm not going to go Super Bowl bound. That's a bit far. It's only week 4. Do we think that they're playoff bound?
Well, when you look at who they're up against in their division, I think you've got to say aye. Because, I mean, my team are only on 1 win. We'll get onto the Bears later on. Because
yes, we will.
Dear God, the Chicago Bears. And then the Packers, who they've just beaten. So I don't think it's unreasonable at all, based on what we've seen from the Lions so far, to not suggest that they are more than capable of making the playoffs. They look like, a pretty feisty team, and money on the ground, but even like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, what an absolute player he is.
Yeah.
Aye. I'd say Goff looked pretty solid in that game, but he didn't. He had time, didn't have a huge amount of pressure on him. Green Bay, they just seem to be hot and cold. Liam spoke about it earlier on in one of the previous pods, that when you look at trying to improve this year from a Packers point of view, we love a quarterback. What would be the realistic expectation? I think he'd said if they can get to maybe 6 wins or something, maybe they would see that as okay, bed them in, just see what Love can do. There's going to be games like this where it's just not going to go their way at all. But for the Lions, I do think they're more than capable of being a playoff contender, unfortunately, for the Vikings. Unfortunately.
And I say this, and I mean no disrespect to the NFC. In the NFC as well, like, okay, the Cowboys are electric. The Niners are electric. They are going to be your teams who are, I don't think many folk would argue that's going to be your NFC championship game. Unless something really dramatic happens.
I beg to differ.
Well, sorry, okay, Eagles will be in the mix. I'm going to be honest, Kev, I don't see you making it this year.
No? Oh dear.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you know what? Okay, tell you what. I'll put my bottle merchant caveat in first. If you can get the Cowboys on a game like week 3, absolutely, you hose them. You play the Cowboys like they're playing the rest of the time, though.
I mean, I don't know. But back to the Lions, I think, like, see, for me, I think they showed real signs last year. There was a lot of games last year. I remember being on I don't know if it was the preview or the review crew, but I remember being on and talking about the Lions quite a bit, and I was really impressed with them at times last season. And I think for them, it's just whether they can, find consistency, or maybe not even that. Maybe it is their mentality that that's still maybe a bit questionable. Do they have the bottle when it really matters? But I certainly, like, early doors, I think you can't look at them and say that they're not going to be there or thereabouts come the playoffs.
It takes bottle to, like, go somewhere, like, say, go to the Chiefs in their own back garden and play the way they did. This is a team that's already shown huge amounts of character, huge amounts of bottle. So I wouldn't fancy our chances playing them at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that's week 1 away to the Chiefs is a free hit. Like, for me, I don't think that there's really anybody expecting them to win there, and there's not a great deal of pressure on them to get that result. I think for me, it's when it gets close to the to the crunch end of the season, and they're maybe in the mix that's when that bottle comes into question. But like I said, there's no doubt they're a good team, and they've got some great players in there. And it's just, as I said, consistency and or that mental toughness when they need it. That's what we've got to wait and see. But they'll definitely beat plenty of teams this year. That's for sure.
Well, tell you what, on the notion of, I've already made myself enemies in the city of brotherly love by neglecting to mention these. So why don't we just go in for a penny, in for a pound, and we're going to bring Kevin to tell us all about his glorious Philadelphia Eagles. And it's, do you know what, when I was typing this up in my little show notes that I keep, is I couldn't help myself with a Finding Nemo pun of just keep winning, just keep winning. Take it away, Kev. Tell us all about your glorious Fly Eagles Fly.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. This week wasn't, as we touched on before, wasn't quite so glorious. It was a real tough win that we had to grind out. But then again, I feel like every time I talk about the Eagles now on this pod, I say the same thing, and it's we just seem to just do enough all the way last season, and again so far this season. There's never been any, for me, absolute blowouts. It's just enough all the time. And I was really, really worried at some points during the game with Washington the other day, because obviously last season, I think the only regular season game that we did lose with Hurts starting was against Washington, or certainly at least the first game that Hurts lost was against Washington. And I thought, history's repeating itself here. Looking back at the game, one of our biggest problems was the Eagles gave away a lot of penalties. We gave away 11 penalties, but it wasn't just
that, because that was big. You guys did shell out yards.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the penalties; it was the situations and the yardage that we gave up. It was 81 yards we gave up for those 11 penalties. Yeah. And I mean, the Commanders they had 7 penalties, and it was only cost them 41 yards. So double the amount of yardage, just about, through penalties, and that was what I think one of the reasons why we're finding it so tough. But the Commanders, they had more possession, they had more first downs, they had more total plays. So I mean, they're a good side. I'm going to be honest. I think that the Commanders are a really good side. I wasn't surprised that it was a tough game. The penalties made it even more difficult, but I think what it comes down to is we've got Hurts, we've got AJ Brown. We've got other weapons, but I think when it really mattered yesterday, Hurts and AJ was where we got our joy. I think where was it?
Is that see with that? Sorry, I'll come in there for half a second. Is that the difference? I think many folk this year would disagree. Actually, the Commanders are a good team. They're 2-2. They certainly gave you guys an absolute game all the way into overtime and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
They've got
a good
squad
this week.
They've got a good squad. They don't have that player, that AJ Brown, that Hurts, etc. That's just going to elevate everyone around them. Scary Terry is brilliant. I have a lot of time for Terry McLaurin. Great player.
Curtis
Samuels, as I was slagging him off earlier, is actually he's shown that he's not too bad, actually.
You wouldn't put him in that category? No.
Is it that step to excellent, that step to elite that they're missing?
So that's him being told he's not Mahomes and he's not Hurts already in the space of 20 minutes or so.
You must see.
But yeah, but I think it was really interesting because the stats on the ground were almost identical during this game. The reason I say that Hurts and Brown were the difference was because on 4 less passing attempts and 4 less completions, we got 53 more yards in the air, and obviously 2 big touchdowns to Brown, and that kept us in the game, because otherwise due to the penalties and the struggles that I've said, we were going to lose that one. But looking at the stats that the Commanders had in the passing game, as I said, 53 less yards than us on more attempts, but it was also their passing was so much more spread around. McLaurin was out in front, I think, in 80 yards or something like that, but they had like 3 other players on like between 40 and 50 yards. And they do have good players. They've got really good players, but like you say, I just don't think they've got that one elite player there that kind of they can count on when it really matters. And I think they're starting to show that there's a good chemistry building up between the receivers and the quarterback. And as I said, the run game's all right. I think they're pretty solid. So I was just relieved. I think the reason I can't really enjoy Victory Monday as much after that game is that it's just a relief to get through it.
Emotionally drained.
Emotionally drained. That's it, Brian.
It's interesting that you point out though the kind of the AJ Brown Hurts connections. This is right. So this is the scoring summary, right? So we'll ignore the field goals because nobody cares. But I don't know. We love a field goal and it's clutch, but for this we don't care. So the Commanders first touchdown, 1 yard run, then it was a 5 yard run for the Eagles. So marching down the field, punching it in, we are running back. Fair enough. Then you had the fumble recovery, Terry McLaurin, that 0 yard thing. That was a bit of an odd play. Then your next touchdown was AJ Brown, 59 yard pass, big bomb pass all the way down the field. Then you're Robinson Jr., 15-yard running touchdown. Then it's AJ Brown again, 28-yard pass. It's that, and then you've got Dotson wrapped up with, which was actually a very nice 10-yard grab. I enjoyed that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But it is that one. Here it is, big ball up, and I've got that big, absolutely dominant wide receiver that can just bully a cornerback, bully a safety out of the way, bring it down and get the score. It's why the Eagles are where they are, I suppose.
And I think that the reason that we needed that to get through the game yesterday was because of the penalties, because the yardage we were giving up. Because as I said, the ground game, were cancelled each other out, and we needed that. And I think had it been the other way around, I don't think Washington would have been able to cope with the loss in yards, the penalties. They would have turned over possession, and we would have scored, and it would have been a much more comfortable game. But I think you're being a bit harsh on Elliott there, Brian, because yesterday his kicking was superb. I mean, it was 53. Was it a 53-yard?
So let me see. Okay. To be fair, hang on. I've got them now. But 41 yards, 47 yards. Oh.
That was saying that into the first half, you make the point, Kev. Jake Elliott, he was absolutely solid, and if he didn't make that kick to make that 3 points to make it 17-10 at half, it might have been a totally different story in the second half, because the Commanders in the first half, I said they were gutsy, really gutsy, a totally different team than the one that got steamrolled by the Bills the week before. They only put up 3 points the week before. So to come from that and then to go to Philly, their own back garden, and to take them all the way to overtime, putting up 31 points in the process, like that's nothing short of being gutsy. You've got to give them massive amounts of credit for that. I definitely agree. Give Jake Elliott some love there, because he absolutely drilled it, and he wouldn't have, and the other thing I was going to say was he wouldn't have even had the chance to make that kick if it wasn't for that Devonta Smith catch that he made, which was utterly ridiculous, which then led to that field goal. So could have been a different story if it wasn't for that. There was drama at the end of the first half, and then there was the drama at the end of the second half as well, which was also like.
And that drama at the end of the second half, we're praising AJ Brown, the celebrations which led to a penalty, which put them, in decent field position to go and tie it up was a bit silly. So I think that's
really hard. Right. So I'm right. So I'm right. We're talking about the taunting. That right. Don't get me wrong. I kind of agree with the taunting being punished so bad. I mean, they're right in the face, but that that was quite small beer for me. I thought that was a bit harsh to get a taunting call for that.
I hate taunting calls. I think they should be allowed to rub it in. I don't see a problem with it. But what I will say is I've seen so many harsh taunting calls, and just don't do it, man. Just get the points.
Well, that kind of is it. At the end of the day, these guys are paid millions of dollars to play the game. It's no hard. Right.
Yeah,
we're going to keep it rolling to a game that the story, if nothing else, that comes out of the back of this game is absolutely incredible. We're going to go to Smudger, and it is a story of, I don't even know, a game of two halves. I call it a game of two halves is probably fair. So it's Broncos at Bears. Denver at Chicago. It's two teams who are not in a great place. Talk us through it, mate.
Man, I'm just going to start with it is tough being a Bears fan right now. It's really, really tough. I mean, we heard a lot of frustrations coming from Claire in our last podcast about the Bears as an organisation. What's been going wrong this season? And yesterday was a case of the Chicago Bears just finding new ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That was the 14th straight loss, and for all that these two teams they've both been pretty awful in the opening 3 weeks of the season. But actually, when you put the two of them together in this game, it was actually pretty entertaining. It was a really, really good game of football. And it totally swung, wildly in both directions, like you were hinting at there, Brian. The fact that they went up 28-7, in the third quarter, it looked like there was some hope for the Bears. It looked like they were finally going to have something to build on, and I really felt for Justin Fields. Justin Fields has been the subject of so many conversations, and he had a brilliant game. Like he had you could probably call it a bit of a career game, because he had, like, prior to we'll talk about the Denver comeback. We'll get to that, right? But like prior to the collapse, right? Let's put in that.
Pre-collapse,
right? Pre-collapse. They were up 27, and you looked at how much time Fields had to kind of scan the field and actually make some really good throws. He was like, he looked brilliant. The throw, he's got talent to throw to as well. Like the DJ Moore catch in particular, we'll gloss over the fact that it wasn't a touchdown.
As a DJ Moore fantasy over, yes, it bloody well was.
No, it wasn't. Poor officiating. It wasn't a touchdown. His right foot didn't touch the ground, touched the pylon, and it's out of bounds. I'm sorry, wasn't a touchdown. So they got a wee bit of help from the Zebras, is all I'm going to say in that one. But yeah, like Fields, he put up brilliant numbers. So we can't blame him for that one. I'm just looking at what he actually did.
I've got him here. 20, so his numbers,
you got him there?
Yeah, 28 for 35, 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, and the pick was, I'm going to stand up for him. Pick was absolutely not on him. That should have been brought in.
No. It wasn't at all. It was he changed direction.
It was his receiver let him down.
I totally agree.
Then 4 carries for 25 yards. So he didn't use his legs much, but he didn't really need to use his legs much because they had Herbert, who was been pretty effective. But
I mean, Fields, that was his first 300 yards plus passing game as well. So he put in a brilliant performance pre-collapse. Post-collapse, it was back to being like Justin Fields of old, and the mistakes start to creep in. He's scrambling all over the place. He fumbles the football. He throws interception. It was that pressure that eventually got to him. And it was a complete collapse in the fourth quarter. And we were talking about it earlier on. I was just in the WhatsApp chat and talked to Grant about it, who is a massive Bears fan, and we were talking about some of bizarre coaching decisions as well that happened in the fourth quarter. You talk about Matty Bufflus and taking the decision to go for it on fourth down, and they had like half a yard or something ridiculous, like half a yard, and they're sitting at about the 20-yard line or something like that. So I mean, they could easily kick it for the field goal, right? But they chose not to. They chose to go for it. But then the way they chose to go for it as well, like they're basically set up. You know,
he set up in the gun. He set up in the gun. Why is he putting them so far back?
He's already given the run back a 4 or 5 yard disadvantage, and that gives Denver's defense a chance to figure out, oh, hang on, let's get some more bodies in the way of this, and then they totally snuff it out. And he get absolutely grilled on it afterwards, like totally, like for there will be inquiries into this. It will be under the microscope all of this week, from a Chicago Bears fans' point of view. Like, why did they not just go for the field goal and stop the bleeding? Like they were hemorrhaging points. At least regain the leads. Now, okay, they had been hemorrhaging points, and maybe there was something in his mind thinking, right, we need to go for it here. We need to get a touchdown because there's a really, really good chance that Denver are going to get the ball back and go straight up 2-minute drill, and they're going to score a touchdown, and it's going to go overtime anyway. That's possibly what we was thinking at the time. Now, we all know what happened. The Bears collapsed. They lose the game. That throw at the end, yeah, totally agree. It wasn't on fields. I think that you've maybe got to put that one in commit. But if there's going to be any positives that I can take out of this from the Bears, it would be Fields. That was not on him that game. It really wasn't.
I'm gonna stay to season long form, and he had a good game, and nobody's going to take that away from Justin Fields. That was, you can look at his QBR or the rest. I don't have his QBR in front of me, but it was positive. It was good. It was against the Denver Broncos defense, who just
correct
70 points, and he had all the time in the world. You're right. He was under. He gets sacked. He took 4 sacks, I think. Yeah, 4. Took 4 sacks the whole game. He wasn't under strenuous pressure. Mm-hmm. As soon as you turn the screw on him, a
tiny bit. Aye, yeah. Mm-hmm. The one person
I did enjoy watching him play
most in this game was probably Sean Payton, because if the Bears had won, all the headlines would have been on him and the Broncos. And to be fair, like, Broncos fans are no daft. Like, we all watched the same game. We all saw how dominant the Bears were up until that point, pre-collapse. So they're by no means at the woods at all. Yes, they've got a win under their belt, but this is still a really poor football team who have still got a terrible defense, who have got a lot of improving to do. They're still probably really going to struggle this season as well. But hey, it's a victory Monday for them, so that's the one positive that I will also give Denver in this game.
Thing we'll say is with Denver and with Peyton, so he's got another what you would call what I'm going to call a banana skin game coming up next week. Jets.
Ooh,
Jets.
Okay.
At the Jets.
And then the Chiefs. Ouch.
Yeah. No. See, the Chiefs game, I'm going to say is a gimme. Nobody expects anything out of the Broncos against the Chiefs. As long as they don't get something stupid like that 70
they
dropped
play them
on
twice
them
in October.
The Chiefs go for the 73, they take the field goal. As long as it's not a humiliation, he can lose to the Chiefs and it's not going to hurt his stock any. Well, he doesn't have much stock. But the Jets, not as it should be easier than it is going to be. The D is legit. Zach Wilson. We don't want to talk about him. But he loses that. Then he goes to the Chiefs. He's going to lose that. Then they go to... then it's Packers, Chiefs again, Bills.
That's tough.
Couple of weeks to be a Broncos fan. Yeah. Right, okay. We'll keep it rolling. We're gonna come back to me. So this is the one that inspired our kickoff question today. So Dolphins at Bills, and it was a bit of a hosing. It was actually 48-20 And to be fair, this is one that started really competitively. Miami drew first blood. They got the touchdown. Achan, sorry, is pronounced his name, is looking really good. He's looking electric. He's all the criticisms that a lot of people had before the season about his size really look like they were completely baseless. Miami are 100% going for the whole Legion of Zoom. I mean, that is it. It is. Everyone's fast. Just chase them. And they look like they were coming on really well. But they then came up against not only a team with a really good offense. Josh Allen and the Bills seem to be swinging again. Didn't start the season amazing, but by God, they are playing well now. And that Buffalo defense, which is frankly terrifying. I'm still getting flashbacks to last season when Matt Milano absolutely eviscerated the Browns all on his own. The guy, so even just looking at him, 10 total tackles, 8 solo. He's a
guy was a machine. Player. Aye, it was an absolute machine in that game.
Yeah, and this is what I'm trying to remember. Who was it? Did Davis White get injured? Who got hurt? Someone got hurt. They lost somebody as well. Unless I'm getting confused, I might be thinking a different game. There's a lot of football. But so they've just, is this a case of the Dolphins dust themselves down, they move on to the next one? At the end of the day, they came up against a really...
Torn Achilles, you're right. It was White.
So he's out. Just big lost. So is it a case where the Dolphins, their number just came up in the day? We were talking about these victory hangovers you get, particularly when you drop 70 on somebody. There's a reason that was nearly a record. It doesn't happen in the NFL. But see, even if we look back, the Dolphins have played the Chargers, who are hit and miss. They're the Chargers. Then they played the Pats under Mac, who are nowhere near as terrifying as any Pats fan wants to say they are.
Not if you watch the Pats game this weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Then the Broncos game. So yes, the Dolphins
Broncos who made the Bears look good.
Yeah. We should get that made up into little pin badges. We made the Bears look good. So I suppose, I don't know, is my point is, are the Dolphins one of these teams that are frankly incredible on offense, but they let so many points come back the other way that a team that's got a reasonable defense is going to catch them out? Because you look, Chargers, they let the Chargers put 34 up on them. That's Justin Herbert, so fair enough. They let Mac Jones put 17 on them, and they let Russ and the Broncos put 20 up on them. Now, yes, as we say, they scored 70, so it didn't really matter. But still, I don't know. I look at the Dolphins, and particularly after that one, week 3, they were anointed Super Bowl champions elect. Nobody was laying a glove on the Dolphins in any way, shape, or form, anywhere ever. They came up against the first proper challenge, and there were a lot of holes there. So Kev, actually, I'm going to stick this to you, because you've got, what, as a check, 1, 2, 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and then you need to take the Dolphins on. You need to go to Miami and deal with them. After watching last night, surely you're kind of looking at that thinking, we could take that. We could take them down.
I think, I mean, I don't think that just watching the game against the Bills changed my outlook. I feel like, even before they got hammered by the Bills, that I would still have a certain amount of confidence that the Eagles have got the game and the team to turn them over. But I think for me, when you're talking about the Dolphins, the biggest thing for me is that obviously they've got those weapons in the air. They've got the speed and the deep threat. This year, I think they were a little bit unlucky with their running game last year. Obviously, they lost Tua as well for huge chunks. But Mostert get injured. They never really had a settled backroom. And I think that the big difference early on this year is Achan, and Mostert being fit again, and they've got a huge threat on the ground as well as in there, and I think that's where the 70 points came from, because it all clicked, everything worked, because they're up against a poor team. But I think the biggest thing, that the Bills managed to do, and that we are going to have to do as well, if we're going to get to beat them, is to be able to deal with both threats. So have a really strong D line, and also your backs are going to have to play. They're going to have to be really sharp. If you're weak on either side, I think Dolphins have now got a team and an offense that's going to be able to hurt you. If you've got a weakness, whether it be on the ground, or whether it be in the air. And I think that what the Bills showed is they're a serious outfit. They've got a really strong all round team. And another thing is, being able to keep the Dolphins offense off the pitch as well. Give your defence a break. If you're going to, if you're not putting points up against them, if you're not going on long drives down the field, and they're just keeping on coming out, they're going to run your defence into the ground. They're going to tire you out. They're going to absolutely hammer you. So I think, for me, I feel as though the Eagles have got a real strong team all round, and I feel as though we've kind of got the same as the Bills to be able to do what the Bills done. But yeah, I didn't have to see the Bills do that to think that. I've always felt that, but at the same time, they could very, very easily, put up huge numbers against any team if they're not on it, if they're not, the top of their game when they play them.
It's a funny one, because you look at the Dolphins, like the remaining schedule the Dolphins have got, and I'm gonna say it's soft. I was going to try and be all diplomatic and political there and be nice about it, but they've got the Giants coming up, who they should hose. They've got the Panthers after that, who they should hose. Eagles, tough game, going to be a big challenge. Who knows how that one will play? Pats, who they should hose. Chiefs, tough game. Give them that. There's a second tough game. Raiders, they should leather. Jets, they should leather. Commanders after last week, maybe. Might be tough. But then it's the Titans, they should leather. The Jets again. Cowboys then come in at the end of the year. Ravens are tough and the Bills are tough. They've got a tough close. Tough end of the season. But you would put money says one of the Cowboys, Ravens are probably going to be done by then. They'll probably be dealt with. They'll probably be playoff bound. Maybe the Cowboys will be duking it out for a number one seed. That might keep them going.
The Bills should be out of sight by then as well.
Well, the Ravens might probably secure it at the top of the division. They'll probably be not close to the number one seed, so they probably won't care. Then the Bills, it will depend on how the division's sitting. Whether that Bills game is going to be a dead duck, or if it's going to be a lot to play for. So I don't know. I look at their schedule. Dolphins fans, okay, you had a grim Sunday. You get brought back down to earth a wee touch.
Yeah, that was the punch in the face that we talked about. Yeah, that was the punch in the face that we talked about in the previous pod. Like somebody coming along with a really stingy defense that could inflict some damage upon them. So it's a wee dose of reality for the Dolphins, certainly. But yeah, I think you're right though, Brian. The Dolphins maybe flattered a little bit given who they have been playing against, and this has been their first big test. But they're still, they're going to be in contention towards the end. I think based on what we saw at the weekend, the Bills are outright going to be the team to be top in that division, unless something drastically changes, unless there is monumental shift through injury or anything else. The Bills are clearly the team to beat in that division.
I have far too many fantasy shares in Josh Allen, by the way, to be talking about devastating injuries that would derail the Bills. So let's move swiftly on. Right, we're going to look at the last game we're going to look at, guys. Now, it wasn't a classic. It was the Falcons act the Jags, although act maybe doing a bit of heavy lifting.
Asterisk.
It was the London game. Thanks. It was the London game, which, to be fair, does get a big shout out for me. I've been to the London game once last year with some of yourselves, chaps. It's a fantastic experience there. I'm gutted I can't go this year. Nice to see it back. Nice to see the game in Wembley and all the rest of it. It's no the game you would have maybe chosen to highlight the league abroad. So, the Jags 23-7. It was fairly comfortable. Bijan looked great to give for Atlanta. Bijan looked incredible. Desmond Ridder fundamentally is not a quarterback. Unfortunately. T-Law didn't do much, but didn't really need to do a massive amount. Many people are kind of looking for a lot out of him today, and you just weren't going to get it. But the big thing, and this is where not enough people have watched this, the NFL alternative broadcast.
I've heard all about this.
Toy Story. It was not live in London. It was not live in Wembley. It was live in Andy's room. And it was great. Now, we talked about this, ladies and gentlemen, before we came on air, and unfortunately, both Kev and Smudger are letdowns and actually wanted to watch the game.
Because we wanted to watch
actual football and not as a cartoon. Now, the alternative way that you could interpret this is that I am fundamentally a child, and I will leave you, dear listener, to make your own decision on that. I did watch some of it. Now, it was glitchy. Kev was telling me, actually, I didn't know the story. Partly it was glitchy because the NFL obviously uses a lot of different balls that are inflated to various PSIs to please Tom Brady. I'll deflate gate jab in there. It's about a few years late, but it's fine. They use a lot of them balls, that kind of messed with how they wanted to do it. But as a technological showcase, as a thing, this was really cool. Yeah, live, turned into the cartoon, the Andy's room stuff, all the rest of it. Now, obviously, the NFL's got previous. We've done the slime game with the Nickelodeon
like
broadcast.
Touchdown.
Slimed in the end zone. Very cool.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, obviously it's designed to get the younger viewer in, to try and get kids into the game and all the rest of it, particularly maybe kids that don't play it. And I've got to say, I sat this evening with my wee boy, he's 9, and we watched a wee bit of it, and he was like, I could watch this. This could be a thing. As a game, okay, Jags 23, Atlanta Falcons 7, not one to set the old heart racing too much. wasn't a lot in it beyond Bijan that was really worth getting exciting for. But it did give us the NFL as Toy Story, which I call a win. I think that's a big one.
I'm gonna go back and watch it. It sounds cool. I mean, was it literally, let's say, it was saying play by play? So you essentially had the full duration of the game. This was all going on, and they were recreating this while the actual game was happening. Roughly what the plays were doing, they were recreating this. I mean that's pretty cool.
It's right. So for anybody that's not seen it, there's a wee bit of it that's on YouTube. If you've got access to Disney Plus, Fun Day Football, stick that into your search in Disney Plus. It's 2 hours 20 minutes long. It's the full thing. It's not like
we do a game in 40.
Sadly, no. Dazin kept that. Dazin kept the rights to the game in 40 seconds. But it is the full thing. It is. Don't get me wrong. It's a bit glitchy in places. Little bits where it freaks out a bit. But it's as a technological kind of showpiece. It's very cool, and it does show you something that I think the NFL is fantastic for. Where they're not afraid to take a chance with some odd bit of tech. And just why not? Even like things like that we're used to in games like the spider cam that occasionally catches a punt, and stuff like that. Like the NFL's not scared to try these things and just see what it does for the viewer. Right? Okay.
I'd love to do a thread on Twitter on Toy Story characters and who would be their NFL player counterpart.
Okay. You need to. I'll give this to you two. You need to take the big two because we've got Woody and we've got Buzz. Right. Everybody else. And to be fair, Slinky Dog actually had the best job in the world on the broadcast. Slinky Dog was the down marker. Slinky Dog was the change, which I'm all about.
Genius.
Right. On you go, guys. Who would you have? Who in? Let's go current players. Let's keep it current players. Who is Woody?
All right. Okay. Good question. Who is Woody?
Who do you think? Woody, you know what I mean? There's a snake in my group. I'll be your pal forever. Who do we think?
It's got to be. It's got to be a quarterback. That's
Gotta be.
ready.
That's
Both
He's
gotta
a
be
leader,
quarterbacks.
so it's got to be. It's just which starting quarterback has the most Woody-esque characteristics.
Cousins.
I'd be really tempted to go Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, actually, I was
Just after watching quarterback, he's just so wholesome.
Yeah, okay.
I'd say Kirk Cousins.
Right.
Yeah,
so what about Buzz? Who came from another planet to ruin Kirk Cousins' day?
Minshew.
There you go, guys. You've heard it here first, folks. Gardner Minshew is Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. Right, okay, folks. That brings us to the end of the big games, or chosen games, because they're all big games in the NFL. And we're going to move on to the rest in one. Now, we're doing this every week. We have a good bit of fun with it as we just rattle through the other games of the Sunday slate, and we give you them in one line or less. Now, Smudger, we promise you your moment in the sun because it is Victory Monday for all of those in Minnesota. Minnesota, Carolina. Do you know what? You can have a couple of lines, mate. You go for it. Enjoy your moment. It's been a long time coming this year.
This is it's not so much Victory Monday as we're not the worst team in the NFL Monday. We finally have a win under our belt. Took us 4 weeks, but we got there. So I'm delighted that we're finally off the mark and we're just slightly less terrible than we were last week. We'll gloss over the fact that it was against the Panthers. We'll gloss over the fact that we tried to throw away the game multiple times. We did not play our best whatsoever. Don't care. Victory Monday. One of Vikes.
Have it, mate.
That was more than one
Well,
line.
we'll move on from good news to bad news. It's me. It's the Ratbirds versus at the Browns. He's a rookie. He's a 5th round pick. That's all I'm saying. He's a 5th round pick. We really need the bye week. We really need the bye week. Okay, moving on. I feel better now. Kev, Pittsburgh at Houston. This was a cracker, actually.
Well, to round this one up, I'll say the Texans are Stroud and proud, and the Steelers are in the pits.
Love it.
Oh,
I love that
beautiful.
a lot. Coming back to yourself, Smudger, the Rams at the Colts.
Ooh, Rams at Colts. What did I think of this one? Okay, I'm going to go for... Oh, we sum this one up. Close. I mean, it was basically two teams, 2-2 got into it. Bit of a 50-50, and yeah, Rams edged it in overtime. It could have gone either way, but close. I think this is probably the best way I could sum that up.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was actually, again, there was a lot of really good games this week. I did enjoy getting to see Richardson get back on and play. He was getting to see him doing his thing was nice. For somebody that I really did think was going to be really poor this year, I thought it was going to be just a gadget player. He looks really, really legit. On the notion of players who are legit, I know actually Smudger wanted to talk about this game, but I stole it out further.
That's okay.
Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Baker, comeback player of the year. Calling it now. Comeback player of the year. Get him his trophy. I love Baker so much. Like, if anybody listening to the pod isn't aware of how much of a Baker homer I am, the love is real. The love is real. Right, Kev, coming to you. The Bengals at the Titans.
So the king is dead. Long live the king!
Hey! Love it. Yeah, I actually mispronounced that one. It clearly should have been the Bungles at Titans.
I was in two minds whether to throw a little line about the Bengals losing their claws or the Bungles or something along those lines, but it's all about King Henry doing King Henry things, throwing touchdowns. Just love the guy.
Yes, will he ever die? What is dead can never die. It's the same Game of Thrones. Right, okay. Somehow it's back to me. Raiders at Chargers. They nearly charged it, like somehow again against a rookie quarterback, and Justin Herbert now only has like 9 fingers. So yeah, good luck, Charger fans. Like I have no idea how he's coped. I just don't understand how the Chargers can charge us so many things. I've tried to. Right, Smudger, last one for yourself, mate. It is the Pats at the Cowboys.
Oh, bad weekend for the Pats. I'm not even sure that I should be calling them the Pats because they didn't even manage to muster a Pat in this entire game because that would involve them scoring a touchdown first, which they didn't do, which completely evaded them against a rejuvenated Cowboys. And what do you get if you take the Pat away from Patriot? A riot. And that is exactly what the Patriots were, an absolute riot.
And ladies and gentlemen, Smudger is available to write headlines and associated bylines for all good news organisations. Contact at Irn-Cru on X. Reasonable commission rate supply. Right, to round this one off, Kev, it is the Cardinals at the Niners.
And that was Mr. Irrelevant rolling on and run CMC.
Oh, CMC's really good, isn't he? Like
he's really good.
He might have a future in this game if he doesn't watch out. He might just make a career out of it. Do you know what? Before we there's one last bit we're going to talk about tonight, guys. We see before we do. Did anybody catch the little snippet for the Falcons from the Cardinals from Joshua Dobbs? So Joshua Dobbs went to try and get his a family member. He went to try and get them a jersey. So he went into the pro shop.
I've seen this. Yes,
he went into the pro shop, walked up to the little terminal that they have that you get your jersey out of. You know, picks his options, size, all the rest of it. All pick your player. He was not listed. He did not exist on their database. He had to go and complain and to get they sorted him out eventually.
To be fair.
I like the idea that by sorting it out, they just went and fished like one of his game jerseys out and fucking give them that one. Yeah, hell of a thing. Right, okay, guys. Women is off this evening. It's Monday, and I'm still in love with football because it's Monday night football is still to go. We have got okay. This is an interesting one. So it's the Seahawks at the Giants. So 2-1 Seahawks going up to the 1-2 Giants, who got utterly leathered week one. And have just not looked like the Giants of last year. Seahawks, on the other hand, very much look like the Seahawks of last year. What do we think? So, I don't know, 2 questions, boys. How do you see it going? And do you have a wee stake in it for fantasy then? Because we do like it when you're just left in one player to pull something out the bag for you for your game. So, what do you think? Kev, kick us off, mate. How do you see this one going? And are you secretly hoping for anything for yourself?
Absolutely. I'm secretly hoping that the Giants just suddenly turn up because I've got a game against Studs riding on it. He's got Gino at quarterback, and I need him to score nothing. So just like 0 Seattle offense, or just run the ball the whole game would be good. So I'm praying for the Giants to win that one tonight, and Gino to do absolutely hee-haw. And that's my big interest in that one.
Okay, Smudge, what about yourself? How do you see it going? Have you got a wee vested interest anywhere?
No, I've managed to scrape a fantasy win as I mentioned earlier on this weekend. My fantasy team cleared Sunday. It wasn't pretty, but I'll take it. I don't care. A win's a win.
Quite right.
I think Kev wishing for 0 points from Gino is a bit ambitious. I think.
Well, I don't need 0 points. He's projected to score 18, and if he only scores 18, I'll win.
Okay. That's slightly more possible than
I just need him not to blow his projection. That's what I need. And this is like I've had a really tough start to my fantasy seasons. But I'm in 4 leagues, and for the first week, I'm on track to win 4 out of 4. But as I said, I'm projected to beat Studs by like half a point if his players reach their projections. So if Gino hits his 18, I'll win by half a point. If he gets 19, I'll lose by half a point. So it's not as unrealistic as you might think, but it's still, I'm sweating. It's enough to make me sweat.
Enough to make you sweat. Right, okay. What's your call for the game, Smudger? Who do you see taking it tonight?
I think it's going to be the Seahawks. I think Gino and Jackson Smith and Jigba could be two players to keep a wee eye on tonight.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm a wee bit like Kev. I only need one small thing to go my way, and I'll be 4 out of 4 in my leagues tonight. So if Matt Breeder could hurry up and score 85 fantasy points, that will do just the job, and that will see me over the line in the old dynasty. It's not been a good year. It's not been a good year, team. The serving champ might be losing that belt. Right, okay, guys. We are going to move on. We're going to start to wind this podcast up. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for, as always, our statistic of the week. Now, this week I've been sneaky, and I've not actually let the boys know what it's about. I've given them a clue that it's all about Stroud. So, CJ Stroud is actually on quietly historic season, or a historic start to a season. So he is sitting at, he chucked up another 306 yards at the weekend there, and he is currently sitting on 1,212 yards through the air, and he's only 4 games into his career. Now, he is second in air yards over the first 4 games. The quarterback that beats him. I'll give you 2 bits of information. I want to guess at each of who you think.
I already know the answer. I have to hold my hands up.
No tips?
No, I already know the answer, so I don't want to spoil this. I'll let Smudger take it.
Okay.
Right,
okay.
Smudger, do you want your clues, mate? Or do you want to just go for it?
No. Give me the clues. Though.
Right, so your clues are that the person who's in first set this record in 2011, and they set it with 1,386 yards. Not giving you any more than that, because any more would make it dead obvious. So who do you reckon? Somebody that was kicking about 2011, you will 100% know the player. It's not somebody that's super niche or something like that vanished off the face of the earth.
Okay. 2011.
Kev, you can tell him who's right.
So we're going back about 12 years. I don't know.
Big name.
I'd be guessing Wilson. Russell Wilson.
They love a big hat.
That's a giveaway.
Is it Cam Newton?
Cam Newton, that's the one.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
CJ Stroud, is he's second to Cam Newton. Cam Newton holds that record with Cam Newton holds it with just under 1,400 yards. And possibly more impressive is Stroud is yet to throw a pick. Not thrown an interception yet.
Very impressive.
Only player in NFL history with at least 1,200 passing yards and 0 picks in his first 4 games. So there you go, folks.
Very good.
There is your statistic of the week. CJ Stroud and the much maligned Houston Texans, who, for beating the Steelers, have got a special place in my heart this week. He's actually quietly putting together not a bad start to a career.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. That is going to bring us to the end of our pod tonight. Week 4 is nearly done. We're not quite there yet. Monday Night Football to enjoy, folks. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can keep in touch with the pods. You can keep in touch with the crew. You can catch us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Irn-Cru. You can catch us on Insta, grid_Irn_Crew. Stick Irn-Cru into your YouTube. Stick it into your Twitch. Stick it into wherever you get your podcasts from, and you can catch up with us. Now, first batch of bye weeks is coming up, so the league really feels like the season's here now that we've got some bye weeks coming up, and as a Browns fan, I'm bloody delighted. So that doesn't mean the coverage we are offering you is going to let up, though, so make sure that you are back with us on Friday for the preview crew of week 5. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Brian, the conscience of Cleveland Donlan. He has been Smudger. Thank you very much for joining us, mate.
No worries, Brian. Always a pleasure.
And the big bird himself, Kev, has been ruling the roost as always. Thank you very much, Kev.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Cheers.
Right, and until next time, ladies and gents, we will see you then. Enjoy Monday Night Football and enjoy Week 5.